with Vodacom, which of course is the largest. It has a stake of about 60-something% held by Vodafone of the UK. It has shifted a little bit because of a recent deal whereby Vodacom here in Johannesburg bought into Safaricom, which was the Kenyan subsidiary of Vodafone. Market capitalization 265.9 billion rands. Price to earnings ratio 16.74. Traditionally a very good dividend payer and therefore put into portfolios which require such 5.37% dividend yield. However, the 5-year chart will show that it's done extremely well, except for a little bit of a sell-off here in the last couple of weeks, maybe the last month and a bit. So just summarize for us what's going on in Vodacom's life.
Yeah, I wonder if it's not people feeling they've sort of made their money and are looking at MTN's valuation and maybe moving towards that. But I think Vodacom in a way has been a victim of its own success. In that it has, like you said, great market dominance, and that's what we love about it. Great history of paying out dividends, and it's got a great infrastructure. But I think what they've really failed to do is diversify their revenue stream. They spend
out of South Africa, you mean?
Out of South Africa. They've relied a lot on their infrastructure. We know they were the first to introduce the 4G into our market, and you know. In life, we say you can't get away from debt and taxes. I think we've gotten to a point in history where you can add data there as well. You know, data is such an integral part of our lives. And in a market where data prices are really under pressure, we know that as South Africans, we feel we're being a bit ripped off. You know, there was been the recent data must fall. What Vodacom has, which is better than any of the other players, is this amazing network. So in a market where there's downward pressure, you want someone who can give you scale and can leverage off that scale to make sure that, I guess, to get margins on the price.
Okay, so to summarize, what you're implying is that the reason there's been a bit of a sell-off is there's been a bit of a cooling on the growth forecasts, principally for data sales, because of lowered prices, because of competitive pressures. In addition to that, do you think that the market is not that comfortable with the deal to buy into Safaricom? I don't know, perhaps because of the election or post-election dramas that's going on in Kenya? Yeah,
I mean, if they are, I'd be very surprised, because for me that's a tick for Vodacom, because it gives them greater access to the African market, which has largely been MTN's area. And
although what we did see with the transaction, sorry to interrupt, is that after buying that stake, then Vodafone sold off a little bit of its Vodacom shares in order to get it back to the required regulatory levels. So I suppose that might have caused a bit of a, a raised eyebrow.
The Vodafone and the offshore business has struggled a bit, so I wonder if that wasn't just a means of sort of getting a bit more capital back into the business.
Vodafone in its own business in the UK is obviously
separate from
pains to try and show its investors that it can still grow and manage its own capital requirements.
Exactly, but that Safari deal, what it did is it gave it access to the East African market, the Kenyan market,
which is a plus.
Which is a plus.
I agree.
But more than that, it's given them more access to the M-Pesa market, that online banking money space.
Strong.
Which is very strong. The story of M-Pesa has been a remarkable one, and still one of the persisting problems with Africa is infrastructure, and more than that is banking infrastructure. And things like M-Pesa and online banking and online money is a growth market.
It's a great market retainer as well, because people then need to be on your network. What about this noise in recent days about the fact that the South African government has some sort of bulk relationship with Vodacom in terms of its airtime and phones for government employees, and that there's some questions being asked by the competition authorities about whether that tender was awarded in the right way?
Yeah, rightly so. Vodacom argue that because of their market dominance and scale, they're able to offer government the best deal.
Yes. But which then, sort of makes sense.
It sort of makes sense, but then the competitors have a valid point to say, well, look, you're still government. You know what I mean? You have to give us a fair chance. And whereas before, each department, it's been left to its own demise, who they pick. Now to have this blanket approach to say, it's only Vodacom. That is not fair competition.
So you think some of the other government departments should be with MTN and maybe with Cell C, just because that would demonstrate that at least people were applying their minds?
Exactly, and I mean, what you want in a free market is just the ability to compete. You know, that's what the other guys are saying, look, at least allow us to compete. If Vodacom is the best deal, then fair enough, they win the tender. But don't make it this blanket approach that we can't even tender for any of the business.
Look, I quite like the mobile companies, because once you've built all of the towers, right, if you go and replace the 4G machine at the top of the tower with one which gives you 5G, the capital investment is not as significant, because you don't need to rebuild the tower and the power supply. So by rights, if there's insatiable demand for data, and we know that there is because the kids are all getting better smartphones, then it's really going to be a scale game, and as long as you keep moving, you can continue to make good money, because you'll sell that much more, even if it's at a lower price. Seems to me to still work.
Exactly. I mean, it's still a great company, and the fact that the network is already there, like you say, means that it allows them to use their capital or direct their money into simply maintaining it. Rather, where if you look at a MTN, which we'll touch on now, it's a matter of still catching up, still having to build it.
Okay, so as far as Vodacom is concerned, the share price has pulled back a bit. We saw that. Do you regard this as a buying opportunity, or are you going to avoid it for a while for reasons?
It's a buying opportunity, I think. Yes, look, it's if you look there, it's sort of going in the wrong direction, but I don't think that's a trend that will persist.
You could argue a sort of return to its historic trend. So you're going to go hot on this one?
Hot on this one,
Good, I'm going to join you.